Roger Ebert has been reviewing films for some 30 years, and he's been loving them all of his life. Whether it is through his Pulitzer Prize-winning writing for the Chicago Sun-Times or his weekly debates with Gene Siskel on television, his reviews are respected by filmmakers and filmgoers. His latest project, a collection of writings on film, Roger Ebert's Book of Film, contains over 100 essays, memories, anecdotes, and parodies with authors as diverse as Leo Tolstoy and Spike Lee. It is an insightful picture of the first 100 years of the cinema, and I am pleased to have him on this show for the first time. Welcome.
Hello,
Great
Charlie.
to have
How are you,
sir? Good to have you here. Let me first talk about movies today.
Okay.
Just take advantage of that. We are in love with The English Patient. Tell me what you thought.
That is a good movie, and it's a good movie even though the book looked like it was not filmable, because so much of that book is interior monologue, and how do you get the interior monologue outside of the mind and onto the screen, and they were able to translate it into terms that were faithful, I think, to the spirit of the book, while not necessarily literally a version of the book. But I'll tell you, the Academy is going to have a problem with that movie, and they've got a big problem this year. Most of the big pictures are either English language films from overseas, independent American films, or shocking subjects. And the Academy loves to have Hollywood movies that are real kind of positive and feel good.
But English Patient is, I mean...
Well, it's got a foreign director. It's got 3 foreign actors and Willem Dafoe, who everybody thinks is foreign.
And so, therefore...
Juliette Binoche will never be nominated. She's not known as good as she is. Ralph Fiennes got nominated for Schindler's List. He won't be nominated for this. Then you have other movies like Shine, Secrets and Lies, Breaking the Waves. You've got American independent films like Fargo and Lone Star. You have recent American films like The People versus Larry Flint, the new Woody Allen musical. They never give a movie an Oscar if it's directed by a New Yorker.
Now, would they give an Oscar to a film about a pornographer?
I don't think so. And they would never nominate Courtney Love for Best Supporting Actress, and she sure deserves it.
Now, when we say they, it is meaning the Academy of Motion Picture...
The 5,308 members, however many there are, of the Motion Picture Academy.
Who would you vote for Best Picture so far of the movies that have been released?
Fargo.
Would you really?
And Frances McDormand for Best Actress in Fargo.
She was
the performance of the year. Yeah.
But I still rather vote for English Patient than Fargo as best film.
Okay, well, it's on my list of the top 10.
Yeah.
So we're not far off.
But you don't, is it on your list of the top 5?
I haven't made my list, and also not all of the Christmas pictures have opened yet. There are a lot of movies still to be seen. Evening Star, Evita, lots of pictures out there. That there are 22 movies opening between now and Christmas.
Well, of course, because Christmas time is when they move it, I guess.
Yeah,
everybody
so
goes.
It's Oscar season.
Right. Now, Evita, is the word good on Evita?
I saw 12 minutes of Evita at the Cannes Film Festival in May.
Yeah.
They showed a product reel to exhibitors, and I kind of got into that to see a little bit. And on the basis of that 12 minutes, I would say that Madonna can play Evita. I was very impressed. And, of course, there's a lot of doubt in Hollywood and around the country. Can Madonna do this? You know, people are as down on Madonna as they are on Barbra Streisand. These are people that the public and critics in particular like to kick. And I think Madonna and Streisand are both very talented, and I think that it could be a good movie. I hope it's going to be a good movie.
Well, what about Streisand's movie?
It was a fairly good movie. I gave it a thumbs up. It's not a great movie. It's probably not Oscar material. But for people to call her narcissistic, every actress and actor on earth wants to look good, and every director and cinematographer wants her to look good.
Are you referring to my friend Janet Maslin's review?
Well, yeah, and everybody else's review. I got a piece of email from somebody saying, oh, she set up one shot to show off her legs. I mean, since when have moviegoers complained that actresses are showing off their legs? Isn't that supposed to be part of the price of a ticket? I don't know.
Now, would Sylvester Stallone look for the right angle? I'm asking.
Yes, he would. Yes, he would, and so would Clint Eastwood, you know.
And so would Clint Eastwood, and so would Robert Redford.
And so would every actor who's a professional.
Right.
Yeah. So why are they hard on her? I don't know.
Well, you tell me.
I think maybe because we have a certain fear in this country of smart women who try to run their own careers and make their own decisions.
Boy, she's going to love you. She is going to love you.
Well, isn't this true? Is there any truth to this at all?
Some, yeah.
Is Streisand an egotistical monster? I don't think so. I think she's no more protective of herself, if you got right down to it,
she is.
than every other actress and actor, and me and you, you know?
Yeah.
I hope I look okay on TV right now.
I do too. I do too.
I look as good. I want to look as good as I can, and so does she.
Is she a good director then? Forget all the shots of herself.
She has directed some very good movies.
Well, how about this one?
Yentl was. This movie is not a great movie. This movie is directed as well as this material could have been directed by anyone else.
Have you seen the Flint movie by Milos?
Yeah, the Flint movie. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
What's it called? The People versus whatever.
People versus Larry Flint.
You've seen it. That's a terrific film.
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yes, yes.
Woody Harrelson.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, but I understand it's terrific. That's what I'm
it's
saying.
very good. It's an American portrait. It's a portrait of people in our time and their values, which are not the values that everybody shares, but nevertheless, unless you can support and defend unpopular people, then freedom means nothing.
Is there an early runaway choice for Best Actor and Best Actress so far?
I don't think there's a runaway choice. There's a runaway choice in my mind for Best Actress, Frances McDormand.
Right, she's great.
But will they be able to remember a movie that opened last February?
Yeah.
You know, the tradition is that they like to nominate and award and give awards to pictures that are still in the theaters.
Yeah.
So the Oscar can help. They're not trying to boost video sales and video rentals.
The notion is that's what happened to Apollo 13. It was released early, and therefore it did not win.
It was a July picture, yeah. If Apollo 13 had been released in December, it would have been nominated for many more categories, and it probably would have won some major categories.
Did you like Ransom?
I liked Ransom. Once again, not a great picture. A good picture, good performance by Mel Gibson. At the time you're watching it, you're very absorbed in it. Later, you think about things.
Was Braveheart the best film of last year?
No. Braveheart?
Yeah,
Braveheart?
What's
No.
the film?
No, it wasn't
what won
Braveheart.
the Academy Award? What was the Academy Award?
It was Braveheart.
Braveheart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't it get the Academy Award for the best?
You're
best
absolutely
director?
right. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not complaining. No,
All
I'm
right, but
just
you're
saying,
just saying.
Was it the best film of last year? I don't think so. I think the best film of last year was Leaving Las Vegas. The second best film of last year was Dead Man Walking.
Right.
There was a documentary last year called Crumb that wasn't even nominated.
I loved it. I saw that.
Crumb,
Great
yeah.
film. About the cartoonist.
So you don't look to the Academy Awards to pick the really best film of the year. You really look to them to pick the best film of the year produced by a major American studio and with big stars in it. And I'll tell you, the only movie that really has a sleeper chance this year is Shine, which is this movie.
I liked it a lot.
It's the movie from Australia.
Right.
It's like My Left Foot and Chariots of Fire. It's a film that will build with word of mouth. People will tell each other. You know, they'll talk about this great experience and that, and then they'll say, but, you know, I saw this movie called Shine.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you that when the nominations come out, Shine is going to be the dark horse. Not necessarily because it's the best movie we've been talking about, because it's not, but because it has the ingredients that the Academy really goes for.
I'm with you. Fargo's a great film, but English Patient is just so good.
Okay, well,
I like love stories, you know?
Thank you. Well, that's a love story.
It certainly
Yeah.
is. For me, talking about you, this is a direct quote, no other art form touches life the way the movies do.
Because it
life.
takes us inside the lives of other people. When a movie is really working, we have an out-of-the-body experience. Now, I'm not talking, this is not the Psychic Network. I mean,
You've seen too many much movies, Roger.
no, I haven't. Has this ever happened to you? Come on, Charlie. You're so wrapped up in the story that you really aren't aware of where your car
That you're
is
sitting in the
parked,
theater
where you're
all
going to
day.
have dinner, what's going to happen tomorrow. You just only care about what's going to happen to those people next. When that happens, it gives us an empathy for other people who are there on the screen that is more sharp and more effective and powerful than any other art form. And I'm speaking as somebody who loves to read. I love to read. But the movies do touch us more deeply, I feel, than any other art form. Good movies. Great movies.
When did you last feel that, an out-of-body experience?
An out-of-the-body experience.
Yes.
Well, of course, Fargo is not a great uplifting experience, but I was so involved in that woman, that pregnant police chief
Yeah, she was
from
great.
Brainerd.
Yes.
I really cared about her. I cared for her. I cared what was going to happen to her next. Dead Man Walking, I mentioned from last year, a film like that.
It was about Sean Penn. I mean, his
when Sean
performance.
Penn and Susan Sarandon
Right.
were developing their relationship, and then toward the end, when they were really communicating, I was totally absorbed. I had if you want to, out-of-the-body experience is probably an unfortunate phrase, but yes, my entire attention was totally absorbed by what was happening on the screen, and that is an escapist experience, if you will, or an empathetic experience that is worth having.
I want to talk a little bit about this book, but before I do that, just a few words about directors. Who do you just love?
Martin Scorsese is the best director now alive.
And Casino is evidence of that?
Casino is a very good film.
But the best evidence of that is Raging Bull.
Raging Bull and Taxi Driver are his two best films, and Goodfella is right in there in the running, and he's made a lot of other good movies too. Then you have other directors. I like directors who are out there, who take chances. You know, Hollywood is so concerned with box office right now, with grosses, with with how the picture opens, how many people go on Friday night. I like directors like Oliver Stone and Spike Lee. You
like Spike Lee?
I like Spike Lee. I didn't think Girl 6 was a great movie, but Get on the Bus is a good movie.
Jungle Fever?
Jungle Fever was a good movie. We're not talking greatness here. Greatness is Do the Right Thing. Malcolm X was a very good movie.
Great film, you think?
Do the Right Thing?
No. Malcolm X.
I said very good, didn't I?
Yeah.
I have these, these critics.
I'm just trying to pin you down here and just get
okay. Did you like Malcolm X? I thought
I didn't.
I
love Spike Lee, but
how about Nixon?
I thought
how about Oliver Stone's Nixon?
Well, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like Oliver Stone, except I think he's crazed by his conspiracy theories.
I want directors with passion.
I do too.
If I know Oliver Stone is crazed, then I'm going to go see a movie by somebody who's crazed. I'd rather somebody is crazed by a conspiracy theory than crazed by lust for a big Friday night gross.
Exactly, me too.
Yeah.
Who else do you like as a director? Who else? Scorsese is one. But
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen.
Makes pictures all by himself. On his own terms. He has a musical coming out. That's probably the best movie he's ever made.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, how do you know? Have you seen it?
I've seen it. Yeah.
It's a Christmas release?
Yeah.
Actors. Is De Niro America's best actor?
Who knows what best is?
Okay.
And then, of course, there are people like Duvall, who's pretty. I mean,
pretty good.
You can't. It's unfair to take a human being and say this is the best.
Why do you make a top 10 list then, sir?
Well, that's unfair too. But at least you're talking about movies and not people.
Okay.
Boy, I wish I had these lawyers here. Yes, De Niro is a great actor. Yes, Nicholson is a great actor.
Yeah.
Yes, Sean Penn is a great actor.
Great.
Yes.
Sean Penn is in that category.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
De Niro.
Yes.
Pacino.
Yes. Keitel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keitel, my man.
Anthony Hopkins. Yes.
Let's be fair to women actresses whose work just.
Meryl Streep.
Of course.
Deborah Winger.
Yes.
Juliette Binoche in English Patient. This is a woman from France.
Right.
Who she was in Before Sunrise. I mean, she is perfectly comfortable in the English language, although you don't give people points for their linguistics ability, so that's kind of a
But I want you to say that Anthony Minghella in The English Patient did the most extraordinary job directing a film of anybody in a while, because he took a difficult book and translated it into a wonderful film. Would you please say that for me, Roger?
Anthony Minghella, in directing English Patient, did a magnificent job of the most magnificent.
And should be best director of a 1996 film.
I think I'd rather wait until the end of the year, and we'll come back. How about January the 2nd, Charlie? Besides, it's a long sentence. I would have to be able to take notes in order to
You not only like to read books, you also like to write. Tell me about putting this together. You went in search of what the most interesting things written about film.
About film, yes, over the last century. There's a piece in there by Leo Tolstoy. You wouldn't think of him as having gone to the movies, but he went.
When did he go
right
to
at
the
the
films?
dawn, right at the turn of the century. And he said, I'm so filled with envy as a novelist. Because with a movie, you can go, you're outside the castle, psst, you're on top of the mountain. Yeah. You don't have to write to get them there. He just loved what was possible to a storyteller with film. He said, it's going to be the art form of the 20th century, and he was right. And so I started out there, and I just tried to put together pieces that were good to read about the movies. It's not a textbook. It's a bedside book, or it's a companion, or you take it...
Look at the people who write here. You've got Kinski there, Arkoff there,
Truman Capote, Joan Didion, Tom Wolfe,
Andy
Norman
Warhol,
Mailer, Pauline Kael.
Pauline Kael, great critic. Graham Greene.
Robert Benchley.
Stanley Kaufman.
John Waters.
Janet Leigh.
Quentin Crisp.
Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh became an expert, out of self-defense. She became an expert on the shower scene in Psycho and wrote a book about it. And I have a long excerpt in there in which she talks about all of the details of shooting that famous scene, the most famous scene in all of Hitchcock, the shower scene in Psycho. How she did it, whether she was nude, how many setups there were, why the electricians all came on that day to stand up and watch her while she stood in the shower. And it's a wonderful essay because she answers all of the charges that were made, such as it wasn't really her. She says, I was there for every one of those 77 setups. I was there for every one of those days. That was me. I know it, and so does everybody else.
Hitchcock could drive you crazy.
Oh, Hitchcock had quite a person. He liked to play practical jokes on his actors. And he had something in common with another contributor to this book, David Mamet, who has an essay in there on directing actors is the name of his essay. Yeah. He believes, and I think Hitchcock would have agreed, you don't want any emotion at all from the actor most of the time. How can you act apprehensive? Any actor, he says, who tries to act in order to betray an emotion on the face looks like he's acting. Yeah. If the director has done his job, if the story has done his job, and if the character has been properly introduced and set up, then all I have to do is look at the camera, and the audience will say he's apprehensive. But if I go like this, you know, it's Vincent Price time, it's Boris Karloff time, you're overacting. He says in there, do the physical action. What do I tell an actor? Perform the physical action. Walk down the hallway, turn the door, and enter the room. How should I walk down the hallway? You should start here, and you should walk toward the door. How should I enter the room? Turn the knob and open the door, then enter the room. Perform the physical action. And Hitchcock would never talk to his actors about their motivation or what it meant. He would simply say, pick up the drink, light the cigarette.
My most famous story about that, and you probably know this better than I do, is one of the great acting teachers had his class, and he said to the students in the class, acting students, you know, just show me how you walk. And they stood on stage and they walked. And they were all very mannered. And then he said, look, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. I want you to think about the most painful thing that's ever happened to you. And then I want you to tell me about it. But continue walking. And all of a sudden the walking changed because they weren't focusing on walking. And it became very natural, you know.
The very best actors, people like Robert Mitchum, who is underestimated, are the ones who do the least. Who simply, you know, if the character is written, if the movie has been prepared correctly, they can present it in such a way that everything else reflects on them and they don't have to generate it.
Spencer Tracy, was it Spencer Tracy?
Spencer Tracy.
Same thing?
Same thing.
All right.
Yeah.
You've got another Rose fave here, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
What does he say?
That's the most recent entry in the book, and that's right off the web. I wanted to go for a century of film. I have the frequently asked files question from the Tarantino web page. You know, where when people go on the web, the people on the web are so tired of being asked the same questions that they put up a fact file, FAQ, and read this first before you ask us any questions. Pulp Fiction is the most analyzed work, I'm convinced, the most analyzed work since Hamlet. Every frame has been analyzed. You can read in there, you know, what was in the briefcase, what was behind the counter in the used gun shop, what did he say when he was quoting Ezekiel, and was that correct? Was it from the Bible, or did he make it up? Was there a slip in time? Did Honey Bunny say something different at the beginning and at the end? And on and on and on. It's fascinating to read it because it shows how fascinated they are in the movie.
And his little quiz for you. Guess whose interview with Tarantino is on the Laserdisc version of Pulp Fiction? Yes.
Very good.
Very good.
He's an interesting guy, isn't he?
You will never tire of movies. I mean, it has been your life for such a long time.
I never started out to be a movie critic. I always wanted to be a newspaper man, and that I am. And I was given the job of movie critic at the Sun-Times, and it was kismet, I mean, to coin a phrase.
Have you ever wanted to do, yes, have you ever wanted to do anything other than, I mean, have you ever wanted to get your hands around the camera and try to do some small thing of your own, applying everything?
If the word is small, then the answer is yes. I am not a movie director in that. There's a different personality type that can direct a big movie. A documentary of a certain sort I would like to make. I've seen some documentaries. They generally tend to be about ordinary people doing ordinary things in a way that makes you realize how extraordinary they are. When you see a movie like Crumb, you say, even though this is one of the great movies, you say to yourself, I could do that if I had the access to that material. Right. But of course, Terry Zweibel, who directed that movie, the story of how he got Crumb to cooperate and to reveal himself is so fascinating. You and I could never do that. But there might be somebody. Maybe I could make a film about you. You can make a film about me. I'd love to make a documentary. Yeah, so would I. I mean, the interesting thing is if the great documentaries always have some interesting, eccentric character at the core. I mean, Crumb is one that's a perfect example. But also War Room had James Carville. War Room? Sort of larger than life. Theremin? Sure. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah. All right. Roger Ebert's book of film, From Tolstoy to Tarantino, the finest writing from a century of film. There's much more to talk about. I hope you'll come back and do it again. I'd like to, Charlie. Thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us.